What's up, everyone? Welcome into the latest edition of the Why Am I a Mets Fan podcast. I'm Samantha Crossan, that's Ashley Wenskowski, and today we are joined by a very special guest. This is Alyssa Rose. I am sure many of you already know her. She is the daughter of the radio voice of the Mets, Howie Rose, who has been the New York Mets radio host since 1995. She also has experience in the industry herself, has spent some time working with the Mets, so on and so forth. Thank you so much for joining us, Alyssa. We really
Of
appreciate your
course.
time.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This is so exciting.
I am very excited to have you here. For everyone listening, be sure to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. Really helps us out when you do that. Alyssa, thought we could kind of jump into your Mets fandom to start and just
Sure.
kind of hear about your beginnings because you have such an interesting path with the Mets. Let's go back to your earliest Mets memories and what that looked like for you. When did you fall in love like we did?
So when I fell in love in my earliest memories are different, right?
Okay.
There was a part of me, and I'm sure that people could understand this because remember that my father did hockey for a long time as well. So he did two sports. He would be, if he was in town, if he wasn't on the road, he'd be asleep when I left for school. He would leave for work while I was at school, and he would get home from work while I was asleep. So young Alyssa, like very young Alyssa, actually kind of resented sports because my best friend in the entire world were so close. And it's like I didn't get to see him so much because of his job. Then as I got older, and I'll be very frank and very honest about this, I started to like sports when I started to like boys. Cause I was like, wait a minute, I have a leg up here. And I'm gonna use it. So I started to really follow sports. And then I realized, wait, I like sports so much more than I like boys. Like I actually really am passionate about this. But I would say my earliest Mets memory where like I really fell in love with the game and really fell in love with the team. And I've talked about this a lot, but June 30th, 2000, the Mets were playing the Braves. It is the only game I've ever gone to with my father as a fan. So back then he was doing television and that game was being broadcast nationally. So he was off. So we went and sat in the stands together. It was fireworks night. The Mets were playing the Braves. They were down a billion, and I mean a billion. There was no shot the Mets were winning that game. I think they were down 8-1 or something like that. And Mike Piazza comes up, and my dad looks at me. So what was it? June of 2000. I was just about to turn 10. I was just about to turn 11, rather. And my dad turns to me and he goes, I forget the pitch. I think it was first pitch. He goes, first pitch, Mike Piazza's going to hit a home run and the Mets are going to win this game. And that is exactly what happened. And at that moment, not only did I fall in love with the game, but I looked at my dad like, you have a superpower. You're Superman. And it changed my relationship with my dad in a way where like he was always my hero, but I thought he was like to an extreme level. And it made me really, really fall in love with the game. So I would say like the moment that I fell in love with the team was June 30th of 2000.
I love how specific that is. Like, I love that you can take it back to a game, a moment, a home run. That's awesome. And it's so Mets too.
Yes.
Um, okay, so that's 2000. In the last 25 years, since you have loved the Mets and been in on the Mets, what's been your favorite, like, era, so to speak, of Mets baseball? Does it relate to a player, a time, a manager? Like, what does it go back to?
I really think I mean, if we're talking about managers, Bobby Valentine and Terry Collins, like I'm obsessed with both of them. I've gotten to know both of them through my time working with the Mets, and I just love them both so much. This may be recency bias, but the 2024 team had a magic about them that was just, I don't remember ever feeling like that about any team ever. That, like, when you're a really big fan of a team and your team loses in the CS, you're gutted and devastated. The Mets lost in the CS, and I was happy. I was like, we never in a million years should have gotten this far. Nobody had any business, taking this team where they went. If you go back to game one from Seymour Wiener, then to Grimace, then to oh my God, it's like there were so many storylines in 2024. It was so magical. I can't remember a time. And obviously, listen, like the Wright and Reyes years were incredible and fun, but I don't think anything has been like 24 was.
It was so magical and it was so Mets, like that's why it was just so Mets.
Right. No other team could have had moments like that.
Yeah.
It's a Mets thing.
I forgot about Seymour Wiener until you brought him back up.
R.I.P.
He was
R.I.P.
important. He was important to me. I
He
love dogs of that size.
he is
We just need to
important.
put that out. Anyway.
He is important to me still now. Okay, well, I feel like we have to ask this question because it's sort of a Metsy question. And you even mentioned back to your memory that you love so much with your dad. You're like, the Mets were losing. I'm like, well, of course they were losing. That's how every good Mets memory starts.
Right.
But what would you say is your most heartbreaking moment, if you can remember
Oh,
that?
oh 06. I was there. I was in the upper deck. I decided last minute to go. It was no, October, obviously, of 06, which would mean I was a senior in high school. And last minute, I had a crush on this boy. And I called my dad and I was like, is there any way, like, he's a Mets fan, is there any way we can get tickets to the game tonight? We were all the way in the upper deck and it was shit. Andy Chavez made that catch, and Shea Stadium was shaking. Like, I was like, this is how I die. I thought that the stadium was going to crumble. And then to watch Beltran just, and I love him, but to watch him just stand there with the bat over his shoulder and watch the season end was something I will never get over, something I will never forget. I have a very real disdain for the St. Louis Cardinals that will never go away. I'll never get over it. It's like the boy who breaks your heart, and it's like you never forget how in love you were. I will never get over the way that I felt in that game against St. Louis.
Okay, along those same lines, what does it look like for you to go to a Mets game now at Citi Field, back in the day at Shea Stadium? Like, obviously, with your dad being there and being in the radio booth, do you see him? Are you able to pop in? Do you guys, like, grab a snack together? Like, or do you not see him the entire time?
No, I will not go to the game and not see him. There's a very nice security guard who stand outside the booth. They know who I am. I go, they'll let me in. Obviously, I try not to go mid-game so that I don't bother him while he's working, but I'll go up before, I'll go up after. What was really special to me is when I worked for them. Because again, as I mentioned, I didn't get to spend a ton of time with my dad one-on-one. And my mom wasn't working there, my sister wasn't working there. So when I worked for the team and I would start work around when he did, because all of the player celebrity interviews that I did were, well before batting practice. So I would get to have dinner with my dad in the press room every night. And that was so special. So that is definitely the best part of getting to go to the games. This year, game 162, which no one wants to talk about, was in Miami. I live in Florida. So that was great because I got to go to the game, see my dad in the booth there. So I don't go to a game in any ballpark unless I get to see him.
I love that.
That
That's so
is,
special.
yeah, you
Yeah.
can tell the bond that you guys have is really something.
Thank you.
I love to just know when you look at his career, his work, you mentioned just understanding the fact that you think he's a genius because of that moment that you guys shared together such a long time ago. To this day now, what amazes you about his work and his broadcasting?
So first of all, what amazes me about his work and his broadcasting is his connection to the fan base. Like, the Mets became a team when my dad was 8 years old, and he lived very close to Shea Stadium. So my dad grew up as an 8-year-old kid who just started really loving baseball. That this team was created for him. And he is not just a broadcaster, he is the biggest Mets fan on the planet. He is, nobody knows more about the history of the team. And I truly believe that. Like, he is a historian, he knows everything. And he not only loves the team so much, but he loves the fan base so much. And I think what's really awesome is that they love him back. And it's a really beautiful thing to watch. He was always so against being on Twitter. He was like, I'm never making a Twitter. I'm never making a Twitter. I don't want it. And then COVID happened and there was no baseball. And he missed the fans so much. He missed the connection that he had to the fans so much that he called me and said, will you set up Twitter for me? And now he is, if you follow him, he spends his life on there. He has such a deep connection to the fan base, the same way that he has such a deep connection to the team. And I think that's what makes him so beloved. And if I have, my way, I think he deserves to be in Cooperstown one day. And I think that that's part of the reason why, is because his connection isn't just to the team, it's to the fan base as well.
What would you say moments wise is, and I know we like touched on this a little bit earlier, but what is the coolest Mets or baseball experience that you've gotten to have alongside him?
I mean, being there in 2015 was pretty awesome. But I would say my experiences with him are different than the ones that I enjoy the most. Like my most vivid memory is Santana's no hitter. And I was at my parents' house. My dad was obviously at the game. And my mom and I, had the TV muted and listening on the radio. And my dad says, as we all know, put it in the books when the Mets win. And it was such a big moment. It was the first and, only no hitter, well, only one pitcher no hitter in the team's history. And it took him a minute to say, put it in the books. Like he was getting the call. And my mom and I were sitting there like, say it, don't forget, say it. And then he had to put it in the books, put it in the history books. But I would say that one of my favorite moments was listening, just being like, say it, say it, say it. I'll always remember that feeling. And then, I mean, again, going back to 24, the Alonso, he did it. The Lindor Grand Slam, they needed they had a famine, he provided a feast or whatever the line was. Obviously the Piazza call. So all of those moments were there, the 9/11 Piazza call. Those moments all happened when I wasn't with him, but they're ingrained in my brain forever. And it's cool as a kid to get to be proud of your parent. I feel like it usually works the other way around. It's like there's so many moments where I get to just say, I'm so proud of him. And it's really special and really cool.
Well, I was gonna say, kind of going right alongside of that, when as a kid did you like really become aware of the gravity of his job and how cool it was and how many people, know him and listen to him every day?
I don't know when I don't know if I can pinpoint an exact moment, but I remember we were walking through the mall. So if you're a New Yorker, we used to go to the Roosevelt Field Mall all the time when I was growing up. And people, when we, crowded mall, would say, hey, Howie, hey, Howie, hey, Howie. And I would turn to my mom and say, how does daddy know all those people? And my mom was like, no, daddy doesn't know them. They know him. And I couldn't wrap my head around it. As I got older, I started to understand. But I like vividly remember being at the mall around the holiday season and all of these strangers going up to my dad. And I'm like, I don't get it. How does daddy know all these people that we don't know? And that I think was kind of the moment.
That's so funny.
Yeah, that's great. One or two other questions about that, and then we'd love to also ask you about some of our Mets hot topics as well.
Puppies.
So one thing that I was thinking about is, at least to us as Mets fans, people who cover the Mets, it seems clear that the entire broadcasting crew has a good relationship with each other. Gary, Keith, Ron, throwing Steve Gelbs in there. What is their relationship like as far as because to us it just seems like they're all best friends who love their jobs and are passionate about it. Like
Exactly what it seems like. It's exactly what it seems like. And it's cool for Gary and my dad because they're relatively the same age and they both grew up Mets fans. And I think equally they're Mets historians. They know everything about the team. So they obviously were such fans of Keith and Ron that I think it's really cool that they are now peers. My dad there's never a conversation about the Hall of Fame where my dad's like, get Keith in there, get Keith in there, get Keith in there. But no, they're all very close. Steve is amazing. My dad was very close with Wayne Randazzo when he was here. Now obviously doing TV in LA and for Apple. And Keith and my dad, have formed a really great relationship. Keith Rad, and Pat McCarthy, who does the pre and post game show. I think it's really cool for my dad to kind of be in a position now where he can kind of mentor some up and coming real talent. Wayne Randazzo was much younger than him and went on to now go do television in LA. Keith Rad and Pat McCarthy, Keith who does the color and Pat who does the pre and post game show, their combined ages are younger than my father. So I think it's kind of special that he gets to be in this like mentorship role right now, but as close as they all seem like they are on the road, they are.
That's awesome. I mean, I think that's so cool to hear because just watching the broadcast, you sort of get that feel. So to hear that actually does translate in real life is really cool. And we actually had Keith Rad on the podcast, I would say maybe last year, and he was awesome. He was
He's
great.
So great. So great and so kind.
The dynamic that the two of them have, I feel like, is really, really natural too.
Yes.
So okay, moving over to we said that this was a very relevant time to have you on the podcast because Mets World just got rocked yesterday by the news of Brandon Nimmo being traded. So I just have to start there. your initial reaction to Brandon Nimmo going to Texas?
Devastation, right? I think it's impossible to be a Mets fan and not have felt that way. We could have gotten, I mean, you could have said we were getting Shohei Ohtani and Yamamoto in return, and it still would have been like, but Nimmo, like Brandon Nimmo has been part of the organization. I think he got drafted in what, 2011? So going back to when I was still in college, I'm 36 years old now. So like he's been a staple, and yes, he's been a great player, right? There are so many clutch moments that you can look back to where Nimmo really came through, but his personality is one of one. Like he is the smiliest, happiest, kindest, most respectful. Like it's a personality that hurts to lose. The Mets said that they wanted to upgrade defensively. Obviously, Semien, Gold Glover this year. There's an upgrade there. Maybe a wash offensively. Maybe Nimmo has a little bit of an edge. I have to believe that this is part of a bigger picture and that maybe there's a Kyle Tucker or a Cody Bellinger or something like that in our future. I hope that there's someone like that in our future,
Fingers
right?
crossed.
Because we can't rely on the bats. We saw, I mean, look at what our lineup looked like this past season, and we missed the playoffs because you need pitching. So as excited as I am to have an upgrade defensively, don't put your defense like in such a position where they have to work so hard all the time. Let's have some pitchers who can keep men off base and keep the ball out of play. So that's kind of where my mind is at, is that there has to be another massive bat coming, but also what's going on with starting pitching.
We think about that quite a bit.
Often.
We long for better starting pitchers over here on this podcast. I think another thing that we, have frequently been discussing just the past few weeks is when we're thinking about other pieces like Pete Alonso and Edwin Diaz. Do either of those two stick out to you as a must-have back? Is there one that's more important there?
No, both. Like blank checks, lifetime contracts. They are such staples in the organization. Like when you think New York Mets, and listen, I think Lindor should be the captain of the team. I really do. Like I fully believe that. Soto obviously is going to be around for a long time. Will hopefully win an MVP, win us a bunch of championships. But when I think of the New York Mets right now in this generation, I think of Pete Alonso. He's the guy who, as much as I think Lindor should be the captain, and I love Francisco Lindor with my whole heart, when I think of this generation of the Mets, I think of Pete Alonso. And to lose him would feel traumatic. I can't picture him in another uniform, but I also couldn't picture Brandon Nimmo in another uniform. So we'll see how things unfold. And then Edwin Diaz, it's just like the closer position is so important. And like there was Clase with Cleveland, who was great. He'll never play in Major League Baseball again. So who are you going to get to replace Edwin Diaz? Like, does he take you on a roller coaster sometimes that like really gives you a heart attack? For sure. But he gets the job done in a way that, I mean, no one else can and no one else does. So I give both of those guys blank checks, lifetime contracts, as far as I'm concerned.
I like that answer. Edwin gives us some heart palpitations sometimes, but he gets the job done, and that's really all that matters at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Okay, amongst the young guys like Acuna, Ronnie Mauricio, Brett Beatty, Mark Vientos, who is your favorite, like, do not touch, do not trade of those four?
Okay, it's a tie.
Okay.
Brett Beatty, I think, is treated really unfairly by the fan base. I think that Brett Beatty has an unbelievably high ceiling. I think we saw it in the second half of this season. I think that he has the ability to produce offensively, defensively. He has the ability to be a great player. Also, back when Brett Beatty got drafted, I was working for the Mets and I was the first person to interview him when he came over to the team. So he was a 17-year-old kid. He came with his whole family, his girlfriend. He was such a sweet boy that I formed this like emotional connection to him where I love him so much. And I just want him to be a Met forever. And I think that he really does. He started to tap into his potential in the second half. I think if he continues to play and produce the way that he did the back half of last season, he could be phenomenal. And then Acuna is magic. Like, he creates moments. He reminds me, not in his style of play, but he reminds me of Jose Iglesias last season, like, or 2 years ago in 24, where like Iglesias was by no means the best player on the team, but every single time he was at the plate, you knew something magical could possibly happen. And I think that Acuna has that magic fun factor, and he's so fast. If you only used him as a pinch runner, he's a guaranteed stolen base every single time. So like there's so many ways you could use him. Yes, like his defense could use a little bit of improvement. His bat could definitely use a little bit of work, but he is so electric and so fun, and you need guys like that. So those two, Mauricio, I feel like definitely has potential, and I think he could be great. I think that that makes him great trade bait for a starting pitcher, for a Tucker or a Bellinger or something like that. I think Mauricio could be really, really good, and I'd love to watch him be really, really good elsewhere if it means that we're going to get someone major in return.
I think that is well said. On that note, is there maybe one person who sticks out to you as someone who the Mets could really use from another team
As a starting pitcher,
and in any position?
I mean, Kyle Tucker's 28 years old and he's a machine. Give me him right now.
Yep.
Um, Starting pitching is very interesting because if there was anyone who was a free agent right now who was worth going out and getting, I think Stearns would have done it at the deadline last season, like in July. So the fact that there's no one available right now that's really attractive on the market means anyone's on the table because the Mets are going to have to get some kind of trade together in order to acquire a really stellar starting pitcher. So I couldn't even begin to guess because I think everyone's on the table if no one's available in free agency. Get me Kyle Tucker's bat. I'd be perfectly happy with Cody Bellinger also. I feel like Cody Bellinger has been in the league forever. I looked it up last night. He's been in the league since 2017, but he's only 30 years old. Like Bellinger is still in a part of his career where he could be at his prime. Kyle Tucker's only 28. Like there are young guys available who have the prime of their careers still in them. So get me one of those and I'll be happy. But starting pitching is a really fun one because it could be literally anyone.
So true.
I agree. Kyle Tucker's been my pick all offseason because how can he not be, right? Kyle
Right.
Tucker's like the gem of free agency, but I totally agree with what you said about Bellinger. I had the same sort of thought process when it's like you're going into the offseason, you realize the big free agents. How the hell is Cody Bellinger 30 years old? It's crazy. I feel like he's been on a million teams. Okay, heavy hitter here for you. It's a big one. And the answer may vary. Realistically, when you look at the roster right now, when you look at what happened in 2024 and then the disappointment that was 2025, how many years away from winning a World Series do you think the Mets are right now?
There's so much up in the air, right? Like I have to see what our starting pitching is going to look like when the season starts. We got to see where Alonso lands. We got to see if the Mets re-sign Alonso, if they re-sign Edwin Diaz, they sign one more bat and they get like one or two starting pitchers. So this is a big wish list, but I don't see what would stop them if they could do that. Obviously, as and anyone knows who follows, like my father is getting older. I hope that he's with the team for his entire life, but I don't think that's necessarily realistic. I think at some point he's going to want to enjoy his life a little bit. So the sooner the better, because his first season, his first year full time doing the broadcasting was 95, but his first year on the beat working for the Mets was 87. So he missed the World Series by 1 year. All I want is a World Series for my father. So I hope soon. I think if we re-sign everyone that we need to re-sign, one major bat, two major starting pitchers, I don't see why not now.
I love that
I think the
answer.
Phillies are going to look very different next year than they did this year, and I think it changes the whole division.
Hey, we're hoping for it, but that is amazing. I didn't even think about that. That is amazing considering what you just said about when your father started this entire journey. So rooting for him now too, and not just us. Hey, you've been a great guest. One other question for you, and then we'll let you get out of here. Figured it was worth it to ask you this considering the title of our podcast. I know this is going to be hard for you to answer because there's a million reasons why it could be, but why are you ultimately a Mets fan?
They're my life. They're just my life. I was born into a Mets family. I mean, and this is listen, I want to preface this by saying my dad is the best dad in the entire world. He loves my mother, my sister, me more than anything on the planet. But I think he loves the 1969 Mets just as much.
Mm.
And I was just brought up in a house where the Mets were everything. And it's my connection to my father, besides the one that we have normally.
Well, that is beautiful.
I love that answer. And I feel like that honestly, obviously is very amplified for you and for what your father does, but I also feel like there's so many Mets fans out there that can relate to, you know, that family connection, right?
Totally. The Mets are a family organization. And I always listen, I hate the Yankees. I'll say it very bluntly. Like I love the Mets
Real.
more than
Like
anything
us.
in the
Real.
world. And I hate the Yankees as much as I love the Mets. The Mets are a family organization. The Yankees are a corporation. And the Mets are all about family. And like, I think anyone who is a Mets fan, the roots go back to such a deep love of family in some way.
That is a bar. That's getting clipped.
That's
You're
true.
gonna see that on social
Flip it.
media. I'm warning you. I'm warning you right
With a
now.
quote, the Mets are a family organization and the Yankees are a corporation. Love.
That's how I feel. And I think it shows if you go to the ballparks, right? Like Yankee Stadium to me feels like a Vegas hotel. It doesn't feel like a baseball park.
It's so
Like,
blah. It's there's no character in there.
I'll tell you one good thing about Yankee Stadium. One, that they have this thing. It's like a soda that has a straw, but around it, inside the cup is chicken nuggets and French fries. That's the one good thing about Yankee Stadium.
That sounds like it goes hard. I'm
Put
gonna
that
have
at
to
City
try.
It does go
and
hard.
they'd be 1-for-1. You know what I mean?
That's it. Just go during the Subway Series. It's because it's the only reason to be there is if the Mets are playing.
Exactly.
We're gonna keep that in mind. Hey, Alyssa, let us know where we can find you. Tell our viewers where they can find you on Twitter or any other social media platform you want them to know.
Yeah, my Twitter is Alyssa Rose. Super easy. I'm very, very active on Twitter in season. Less so unless there's something to talk about in the off season like this. But if you want someone to watch Mets games with, I live tweet almost 162, which is probably really sad for my personal life. But I'm live tweeting 162, so you can find me there.
That's awesome. This has been Alyssa Rose, everyone, and this is the Why Am I a Mets Fan podcast. Alyssa, thank you so much. We appreciate you for being here.
My pleasure, ladies. Thanks so much.
We will see you all back here when the next big thing happens. Thanks so much for joining us.